G'day mates, in today's video I'm going to open up talking about concerns that Chapter 3 Season 2 that is set to start in just over 2 weeks could be delayed and why, and this has a lot of people really concerned. Also, FNCS Grand Finals is this weekend. I'm going to run through my predictions, who I think is going to pop off, where they're dropping, and who the big spawn fights are, because we're going to have a lot of drama but a very exciting FNCS on our hands. So, it's a stacker of a video, hope you enjoy, let's jump into it. To kick off today's video, let's talk about concerns that Chapter 3 Season 2 could be delayed. The season that is supposed to kick off in a little over 2 weeks. Top 5 Gaming tweeted out, "I'm really scared Fortnite would delay Chapter 3 Season 2. The Ioverse 7 war theme would launch at the absolute worst time, and Fortnite has delayed previous seasons because of this. What do you think?" And if you don't get what Top 5 Gaming is referring to, the next season is supposed to be themed completely around war. That is going to be the whole storyline. That is going to be the focus of the content. It would launch during what is a very real war going on right now, as you guys already know, in Europe and Ukraine, and a lot of people thinking that could potentially be seen as insensitive by Epic Games. Now, I know what you're going to say before you jump in the comments. Yes, Epic Games and Fortnite works on these events months and months in advance. This season will have been planned for a really long time. The whole storyline of this season is even building up into the next season, so it's been in the works since at least before Chapter 3 even launched. But at the same time, Epic has delayed seasons in the past for social and political matters. If you guys remember, we had a season delayed, I believe it was Chapter 2 Season 2, because of Black Lives Matter going on at the time. Epic made a big blog post about it and a big statement, and they delayed the entire season. So it is not out of the realms of possibility, and you can see why Top 5 Gaming would be concerned this could happen again. We did have other people in the scene make good points, like Sheena BR, who responded, "I had the same concerns, but the blog post about the new crew pack doubled down. The crew members would also get the battle pass for Season 2 for free, and that blog post was published when the crisis had already lasted a few days. That's why I don't think there will be any delays." And it's a really good point by Sheena. So Epic has made official statements on their official channels about kind of referring to next season. They're saying that, you know, you're going to get the battle pass for free, but does that really mean they're not going to potentially just delay the season? I don't really know. It is very concerning to see. We're going to have to see if Epic makes any statements around it. A lot of people are torn. I see some people in the comments agreeing with the fact that Epic would probably delay it and why they might delay it, giving their own personal opinions. Some people saying that it is crazy to think that Epic might delay a game at Fortnite because of a war going on in the real world. Clearly, people could differentiate a war in a video game compared to a war in real life, but it is always a very touchy subject, and Epic is a billion-dollar company. They have shareholders and a lot of pressure on them from society at large. They don't want to come under fire for being insensitive in what is a very sensitive and touchy topic. So what are your guys' thoughts? Do you think they'll delay it? Do you think they should delay it? Or do you think it'll go ahead as planned? Let me know in the comments down below. You guys may have seen it. There's currently a system to get a all-black superhero skin in competitive. If you guys don't know, for the longest time, you cannot make an all-black or all-white superhero variant for competitive. It has a big advantage. We've talked about why that is, especially with console, on shadows, all of that. Players do the best they can to get like all very dark gray, where it's basically black, or a very light gray, so it's basically white. But you have not been able to do all-black superhero skins in competitive for a very long time now. There is a system going around right now that people are utilizing where you can actually do it by fooling Epic Games into letting you have the all-black superhero skin when you go into competitive. But it involves logging into different programs and doing things that are very clearly not meant to be done in Fortnite. I'm using this as a chance not to explain how to do it or advertise it, to warn you that if you are thinking about doing it, don't do it. It's just not worth the risk. There's a very good chance Epic Games is going to crack down on this, and they are going to try and make a statement or start banning people. I believe the person who found the method has even said that it could get you banned, so please just don't risk it. A lot of people keep asking me, could you get banned for it? Yes, you could almost definitely get banned for this. You are giving your account login details to another program, and you are clearly doing something in Fortnite that was not meant to be intended. Do not mess with Epic Games in situations like this. Just seriously, it's not worth it to get a slightly darker superhero skin in arena or competitive. It's just, that's got to be one of the dumbest reasons ever to get banned. Again, don't risk it. Not condemning anyone who tried it or the person who came up with the method. Again, it's not the most game-breaking exploit. It's not hacking or anything like that, but Epic will put it in that same category of something they clearly don't want to be done and could very well ban your account for it. Just don't do it. All right, one of my favorite things to do ever. My predictions for FNCS Grand Finals this weekend, where they're dropping, whether they're contested, and their placements that got them into Grand Finals, in case you haven't been paying attention. I worked with this one on my stream, twitch.tv/Aussie Antics. Remember, I'm going to be doing viewing parties this whole weekend for Grand Finals. Swing by if you haven't. Quite often, I talk about this stuff on stream. We actually made this list on stream, getting some feedback from my viewers. It's too hard to pick a top 3 or top 5. You're going to have to bear with me. I've made it a top 8, but I have my clear favorites within this top 8, so don't freak out too much at me. I know I'm picking 8 players out of 50. I got a couple dark horses. I just want to make sure you are fully across what's going on with FNCS and who the big names are coming into Grand Finals. So this is not in any real particular order. I'm gonna have some of my favorite ones at the very top here, but I'm not gonna try and pick 1 through 8 and predict it. It's just way too hard. So on NA East, my favorite, or one of my favorites coming out, is going to be Booga and Miro. They're uncontested at Chonkers, which is just one of, if not the most broken drops on the map right now. They came 8th in week 1 qualifiers. They actually only just qualified for the finals. I am a little bit scared that we didn't get to see them in too many of the FNCS style set lobbies. We've seen them in plenty of cash cups. They're both looking amazing, especially Miro in solos right now is coming in very hot. I found it a little bit strange though that all the tournaments in the last few days, it seems like Booga's been playing with Avery, I guess just for a little bit of fun, and Miro's been playing with different teammates as well. But I'm noticing this trend with a lot of these teams. They're not actually playing with their real teammates coming into FNCS or around these smaller third-party tournaments, but then still perform really well in FNCS. So I don't think it's some crazy chemistry issue. I don't think they're just not getting along. I just think maybe they take the chance in smaller tournaments to have some fun with different people, so that when they play the big tournaments together, it's full focus. Remember, they're coming off the back of back-to-back FNCS wins, FNCS and Grand Royale, obviously trios, but I think they've got to be one of the favorites coming into this one. There's also plenty of teams that are around them who are in different locations that aren't contesting them. They should be able to get Surge on. My biggest issue is going to be their Surge being uncontested, having Miro on controller. He has some of the best controller aim in the game, but it does make it a bit harder for those long-range Surge tags. But they're going to walk out with like 32 splashes every game, and they're going to have a big chonker wheel Lambo that they can then tank zone to get all the mats they want because they have so many extra splashes. Like, it's just a crazy drop, and they have it uncontested. I think they have to be at least top 3 on NA East to take the win right now. Next up, we're going to have Acorn and Kanata. They are dropping on the north side of Tilted. They have Jack Illest and TK and Visuals dropping near them in the south side of Tilted, but they do have north side of Tilted locked down to themselves. They came 6th in week 1 qualifiers. So again, same with Booga Miro. We've only seen them in 1 day of FNCS so far, but obviously if you do well in day 1, you shouldn't need to have the rest of the days. So as much as we haven't seen them, it's because they were so consistent given their one chance. We didn't really have to see them. I think they're dropping a phenomenal drop right now. They're going to walk out with consistent amounts of peppers as well. That is one of the biggest issues for a lot of these teams, is where are they getting their mobility? Spider-Man only has 10 uses now. Also, Tilted has a lot of floor spawns, so a much more increased chance of getting launch pads out of it. With 2 teams fighting to the south of them, that could be very easy Surge tags and very easy fights. Twix and Chubbs are also dropping on what is not the greatest split just to the south of Tilted, which means they're going to be looking for a lot of third-party opportunities on Jack Illest, TK, and Visuals as well. That could get a little bit messy, but overall, I think they are going to do very well out of North Tilted. They've only been playing together for about half the season now, but they've been playing insanely well. Acorn is on such a dominant tear right now. I haven't checked, but I believe he is still the first on the amount of PR gained so far this season out of any NA player, so he is looking so phenomenally well. You pair that with Kanata, and it's a match made in heaven. This one was tough. My third place spot in my top 3 is kind of a tie, and I'm so sorry. I know that's a bit of a cop-out, but let me explain why. We have Joji and Rokane who are dropping Rocky Reels. They came 12th in round 1 semifinals, but then they came 9th in round 2 semifinals. They also didn't make a single finals in the first 2 qualifiers, but came top 65 both times. They are one of the most consistent teams, not just in NA, but in the world right now, placing so many times top 10 in cash cups. They're just a really solid, consistent pick, and they are in a top 3 position for me because of that ridiculous consistency. But how is it going to go in an FNCS Grand Final setting? They did obviously not make top 8 in the semifinals the first time around. They then came 9th in round 2, which had them in the top consistency. So they're playing phenomenally well, but there also are 2 players who have a lot of FNCS Grand Finals experience, but don't have the same caliber of performances like the other 2 teams that I've talked about. But I still have high hopes for them. They're dropping Rocky Reels. Like I said, That's what they've dropped all season. It's a good drop. It's very, very solid, very low key. I don't imagine they're going to get contested or any team's going to switch up their drop and start dropping on them. So I have to have them up there, and I kind of have them pitted against Cold and Centered. The reason why I don't have them in my top 3, despite thinking they have been a phenomenal team all this season or not a guaranteed top 3, is just because of their own lack of confidence in their drop spot. They stopped going south of Sleepy to try out Covert Cavern in the qualifiers. They came 9th in qualifier 1, so just missing out. Then they came 10th in round 1 semi. So they only missed out on qualifying by a single spot in their first week. They've obviously done phenomenally well in Cash Cups, and then came 10th in round 1 semi, so they're inside the consistency teams. They couldn't get a win that day, but at the same time, I just don't really know with them leaving Sleepy to go for Covert. Covert is ridiculous loot. It's only been in the season for like half the season now, so when they were doing really well out of Sleepy, Covert didn't exist, and now it looks like they're starting to second guess their drop spot, or maybe wonder whether they could have had a better drop spot. I still think they're going to be insanely consistent, and it's Cold and Centered. They've just been playing so ridiculously well this season, so I don't know whether I'm looking into it too much with them wanting to change their drop spot. South of Sleepy is still a very solid drop. They've utilized their car rotates and getting very early surge. Cold looks like he is so confident coming into this. Centered always buckles down and tries his hardest when it comes into FNCS. I know Centered is hunting that first place, that elusive FNCS win. He's come second so many times, and hopefully alongside Cold, it should be the recipe for success to do it. I just couldn't really pick between those two. Joji and Rokan have just been a little bit more consistent for me, and Cold and Centered just looked a little bit scared with their drop spot, but at the same time, they've done really, really well out of Sleepy Sounds previously, so I'm not second guessing it. Just kind of concerned me that they were. Just wanted to add on that Centered and Cold prediction, I am even more confident in them knowing that Death and Tabney and Nets and Spark are con to the north of them. We haven't seen how Cold and Centered go with a team on the north of Sleepy that they're a lot more confident fighting. With it being Tahi and Edgy, they were obviously very wary to take a full fight with them. Both phenomenal players, Centered and Edgy, obviously ex-teammates. He heavily respects him, and being on a far north edge of the map, you don't really want to take a aggressive early fight and get held and have it ruin your game. But having two teams that I imagine they're going to be more confident fighting to the north of them, that could be a recipe for success for early surge, early points, and really could be the boost they need to jump up at the moment. The rest of my teams aren't really in order. These are all teams I think will do really, really well, but I was just a little bit more confident in the first 4 teams. Now we have Clicks and Day dropping uncontested Joneses. They were the most consistent team in semifinals 1, so they were the highest placed team who didn't get a victory royale. That was on the back of a really, really solid, I think it was 3rd or 2nd in the Duo Cash Cup before that, so they're coming into this FNCS very, very hot. Clicks and Day have been getting coached by BloodX. They were doing a third-party tournament today. BloodX was also coaching them again, so they're clearly focused up. They're trying hard. Things are looking really, really good for the NRG duo, and Joneses is a really underrated drop spot. It has everything you need. It has coolers for splashes. It has a good amount of loot. You sometimes get a launch pad with a bit of floor spawns. You can even walk out with peppers. Sometimes you can walk out with a vehicle. Depending on how the Spider-Man drops go nearby, they don't normally get that. It is being dropped on by OG and Playify. They could be getting contested. We don't really know what's going on there, but chances are they won't get Spider-Man, but they will be getting everything else, and they're coming in very hot. They are a very, very aggressive team. If they take their early and mid fights confidently and they win them, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. But all it takes is a couple times they lose those early fights, things come unstuck, and that's where I'd be worried. I would be a lot more worried for Clicks and Day if it wasn't for all the effort Clicks has put in with a coach this season. Clearly, they know what they're doing. Their early game and mid game strategies are far, far better than what they used to be. I am concerned that potentially Clicks will stream it, which is always a big, big disadvantage. Teams around you know where you're going to set up. They know where you're going for surge, but we'll see how we go. I have them pegged as a good one. Stretch and Commandment, and this is a real wild card pick for me, and it's hard. The 1 week we've seen them try was the first week in qualifier FNCS where they came first. The first week of FNCS, they came first out of Uncon Coney. Just Stretch and Commandment have been very, very vocal about their dislike of this season and the current meta. Haven't been trying that hard, but when push comes to shove, it's FNCS. There's money on the line. Stretch and Commandment, you can never count out. These are 2 grand final specialists. Stretch is one of only 2 players here in NA East who has made every single FNCS grand final, Kanata being the other one. So even though I don't have much to talk about for them because I just don't know that much about them because they've been playing so little this season, the one time we got to see them, They absolutely popped off. Next up, we have Pamstu and Fat. They're dropping the Lighthouse split. They won a game in semifinals 3, so they left it till the last chance to qualify. But in that last chance, they were dominating. They were already guaranteed to get a consistency qualification even after only 3 games, but they won the third one, went straight through. They look really solid out of the Lighthouse split. They've been playing really, really well in Cash Cups. FNCS has been their least consistent part of their game right now compared to Cash Cups, where they were doing far better. That scares me a little bit, but I still think they'll be able to pull it together. Jamper and Dukes are dropping Logjam. Their first time at uncontested Logjam. They came 6th in Qualifier 2. They didn't do as well in Qualifier 1, but that's because they were contested, so I have higher hopes for them as well. I really like Jamper as an IGL. I really think he's come a very, very long way in the last few seasons. Finished off Trio FNCS on a bang. They were playing phenomenally. 2 second places in a row, so I've got high hopes for them coming into this FNCS. I should also mention, because I didn't mention it before, Clicks and Day out of Joneses are uncontested now as well. Voil and Exeb did not make the finals, so that's their biggest issue and thorn in their side out of the way. So all 8 teams that I have picked for NA East are uncontested. That is going to be a big theme going forward today. My dark horse pick on NA East that I don't think enough people are talking about is D-Roller and Trashy. They're dropping the Kami split, which is that area just near Bugle there. The Kami is making work so well. They came 7th in Qualifier 1, so we've only seen them play 1 FNCS session. They came 7th. I just think they're a really solid duo. I just have a personal soft spot for them because I love them as people. I hope they pop off and do well, but that's 9 picks on NA, and they're all uncontested. Yes, I've left out some teams like Cam and Bucky who are doing really, really well, but I'm a little bit scared they're contested by Nico and Polarized at Bugle, and Nico and Polarized have a tendency to play very, very aggressive on spawn. Bucky was in my stream today when I didn't have him top 8. He was very vocal about how wrong I'm going to be, and I love to be proven wrong. I'm just so scared when teams are contested by other teams that I know have a tendency to be aggressive, especially in a 12-game format across 2 days, where if they're going into day 2 not doing too well, they're going to look to get up on the leaderboard. They're going to change up their strategy. They're going to play aggressive, and that's what scares me for Cam and Bucky. I hope they do phenomenally, though. They've been having a really good season. There's obviously other teams I've forgotten or not mentioned as well. If you disagree with my list, let me know in the comments down below who I've forgotten, but for the most part on NA East, those are the teams I think are going to have the best chance of consistency. 12 games uncontested, all proven track records so far of their performances this season, but I could be very, very wrong. As I always say, it's even harder on EU just because of how many top tier teams there are, and I'll try to kick it off again with like my 3 top picks, 3 or 4, and then I'll have the rest. I've still got 8 in there and a couple of dark horses. So first up for me on EU has to be Kami and Teak at the Kami split. Kami's done it yet again, had a phenomenal split job in season 2, had a ridiculous performance at the end of FNCS with Kami, Seti, and Teak. We have no more Seti anymore, but Kami and Teak are looking just as dominant coming into this. They came 6th in Qualifier 1. They've placed so ridiculously highly in all the Cash Cups coming into FNCS. If you've been paying attention to EU at all, you have just no argument to make against Kami and Teak being the most consistent, or at least top 3 teams coming into this FNCS right now. Second up, we have Queasy and Hen. Same thing, just being so insanely consistent coming into this one. Weren't together for the entirety of the season, but since forming have looked so ridiculously good. They're dropping the north side of Sleepy. They came 2nd in Qualifier 1, so we've seen them play FNCS once, and they came 2nd place to Marine and Rifler, who aren't on my list. And before people start flaming me about that, Marine and Rifler were contested 6 games out of 6 in that FNCS. They won every single time, which gives me confidence they're good spawn fighters, but they're not contested now. And when you get 6 games of free points, free surge, your playstyle now that you're uncontested is very different. I'd love to see them pop off. Marine is looking really good, but that is why I don't have the week 1 first place on my list, and I just wanted to explain that for anyone who might be confused why that is. My 3rd place team that I think will be the most consistent is Pink and Anas. They're dropping the Llama split. They've been dropping all season. They have been contested so often, and this time it looks like, unless something changes, they are finally uncontested, and that gives me the confidence to put them in top 3 or top 4. They're looking really good. The thing is, Covert is not as hot. I mean, we don't think yet. I'll talk about that in a second, so that might kind of affect their surge strats and how they're going to play that one. They came first in qualifier 2, so they didn't qualify in qualifier 1, but then as soon as they got their second chance, they came first overall. They are looking very, very good. Now, Tayson and Thomas, I want in my top 3 or top 4, 100% obviously. Tayson is the FNCS GOAT, not just on EU, but in the entire world. The reason why I didn't have him at the very top or guaranteed top 3 is because of the drop. He's dropping south side of Covert, by far the best drop on the map right now. They qualified by winning a game in semifinals 1. As soon as they got that Covert loot, they were vibing. They didn't even get the vault, the game they won, because Tayson's that good, they don't even need it. But the reason why I'm concerned is at this point, they are uncontested. But Joe and Vino are dropping on SETI and Chapix right now at the south side of Sleepy. If they do not do well there, they're gonna have eyes on Covert. I just know they will. And Joe and Vino, if they have eyes on Covert, it means they're already down on points. They're gonna play aggressive. They're gonna 50-50 Tayson and Thomas. And when that happened in the qualifiers, it was just that, a 50-50. Both teams are phenomenal. They're very good at dropping. They're very smart. They're very good at fighting, but it could go backwards and forwards. And in 12 games, if Tayson and Thomas are contested, even half of those, it's massively gonna affect their chance to do well. So before you guys freak out that Tayson and Thomas weren't instantly at the top of my list, that is why. It's going to depend how Covert plays out. If Tayson and Thomas, you could guarantee me they were 12 games out of 12 unconned Covert, they are my #1 pick above anyone else because it's Tayson and Thomas with the best loot on the map, guaranteed double pads. They're looking insane. Obviously, they don't have the entirety of Covert to themselves. When I say Covert uncontested, they do still have Ryzen and Phoenix dropping on the north side of Covert, but that very rarely turns into a fight, or if it does, it's usually on the south side of Covert's favor. It depends how they want to play it. If they get vault control, if the boss spawns on the east side of Covert, they shoot it over, they finish it, they open the vault, they can leave or they can fight. If they don't get the boss, they get to decide based on their loot, are they going to camp the vault and wait for the team to come to them, or are they going to take the fight to them? Things are completely on the south side team's favor, so as long as they're uncontested on south side, they are my favorites to win 1,000,000%. I just don't know whether they're going to stay uncontested. So that's like my top 4 or top 3, because obviously that one's a bit of a question mark for me. Now let's go through the next 4 I have on my list. These were all really tough for me. Once I had like my top 3, top 4, it was very, very tough to then pick my bottom 4. Again, I'm going to say straight out of the bat, like I just described, Joe, Vino, SETI, Chapix aren't on my list because they are currently contesting each other at the south side of Sleepy. If that changes, then obviously I would have had them on my list. Don't come at me just right now. That fight is going to be a bloodbath and it's too much of a question mark for me to think how that one's going to go, so I'm leaving them off my list. Next up, we have Xweezy and Antics. They're dropping the south of Condo, and they're also going to get the vault and the rift to the south of Condo. I don't know whether they'll hold on to this. I feel like a team might try to take that who's doing poorly somewhere else on the map, because that's a lot of loot and a lot of area to cover. And the reason why I'm confident that if they do cover it, they won't have to worry about Surge as much is because there's a lot of teams around them on that north side. We have obviously the fight that is going to be breaking down at Chonka Speedway. We have Leshy and Swilliam going up against Floki and Clement. We also have Lincoln Default that are even further to the south of them. We have Lazen and Merzer up against Pablo, Wingo, and Swag to the north. Rezon and Vidil are also inside Condo, so there's plenty of opportunities for Surge, and if they get the loot in Condo and then rotate towards the vault and the rifts, they can then rift, get early positioning in zone, and then hold out the teams that are rotating in. So there's a lot of possibility there for Xweezy and Antics. I really do think they are going to do well coming into this one. They are coming in off a qualification being the second most consistent team in semi-final once. They didn't get a win, but out of the teams who didn't get a win, they were the second most consistent, so very, very good for them. The other team makes sense to talk about now, Rezon and Vidil, who are dropping on the north side of Condo, right near them. They came 8th in qualifier 1. They are 2 of the best fighters in the world. If fights go their way, they play aggressively and confidently in the early and mid, and it works for them. They are going to be dominant. It scares me because obviously that playstyle can make you go down pretty easily as well. You pick one wrong fight, you make one mistake, you go down. That's 1/12 of your games out of the way. But if they get on a dominant tear, they are going to be very, very hard to stop. We have Janice and Vortex at uncontested Greasy. They won game 1 of semifinals. We know they can win the stack lobbies. They're a very, very solid team. They're very consistent coming into this one. Janice has a lot of experience in grand finals and very, very proven player when it comes to grand finals, especially when uncontested. Now, last team on my list, and it's the only team out of the 16 that I've picked across the regions that is contested, Aqua and Noah Riley. They're a bugle and they are contested. The reason they're on my list list and Bucky and Cam weren't, don't flame me. I have very good reason. It is Stompy and Zhu, I believe it is, who is dropping on Aqua and Noah Riley. Obviously, Aqua and Stompy are ex-teammates. They're on good terms as far as I know. There's not going to be any griefing or any kind of, you know, sad, jaded teammate situations going on there. They both respect each other a lot. So for a similar reason, like I talked about with Edgy and Scented, I just don't think they're going to fight each other. Aqua and Noah Riley were doing well at a Bugle when they were quadruple conned. So only having one other team to split the loot with, they're still going to walk away stacked. The only thing that concerns me is they are a very dominant, aggressive high ground team, but they're going up against a lobby with very, very high ground prominent teams. Queasy and Hen, Tayson and Thomas, Pink and Anas, Joe and Vino, Trulex and Chico. There's a lot of teams that are really, really good at playing high ground in this lobby. So that would be a question mark of whether they can do it. But the way they were playing high ground in the semifinals really impressed me. They gave it up easily if it was getting heavily contested. They didn't ego battle it, and then they retook it and did phenomenal. And I think that's going to be a big, big tick for them coming into this. I did say in one of my recent videos that Aqua was the most consistent player in FNCS finals once he makes it. Bit of a correction. It turns out it's Shinken because he's only made one FNCS and he won it. But outside of that, of the players who have made multiple FNCSs, Aqua is the most consistent in grand finals. So you can never count him out, even if he's contested. My two dark horses on EU is Art Skill and Chips. They're or T-Chips, I believe it is. They're dropping the northwest split of the map. They came 4th in qualifier 2. They've been looking really, really consistent, and this is more coming off the recommendation of some of the big brains in EU like BloodX who've had an eye out for them. So I'm excited to see how they go. Tus and Putrick are also on the hill next to Cuddle. You'll notice this is why I didn't pick Mustache and Malabuka, because of that fight that's going on inside Camp Cuddle, and then you also have Tus and Putrick dropping to the south of them. Now remember, Mustache and Malabuka started to do well in semifinals once Tus and Putrick qualified. They won game 2 of semifinal 1. So once they made it through, that's when Mustache and Malabuka started doing better, because there was another team and a more area they could fill rather than taking that straight fight with Shmeki. As far as Tus and Putrick are concerned, if Mustache and Malabuka take that fight with Shmeki, they're looking very, very good. And that's why I have them on there. Now, big disclaimer, you've made it all the way to the end. I guarantee you've already typed the comment in, Aussie, no way you don't have Benji and Savage. Yes, I do not have Benji and Savage, and it's for one very good reason. They are contested. Not only are they contested, they are contested on the worst side of Tilted with another team to the north of them, and Rezumi and Olda dropping a split that in my opinion is just really not great. They get almost no ammo and no loot. They're going to be looking to third party and take a fight with those south teams and get involved. When you're going to have a Rezumi and Olda to your south, you're going to have DKS and Bad Sniper dropping on your head, and you have Kinzel and Deceptos to your north. It scares me. And Benji and Savage are very good at fighting Tilted. I actually think they might be the best team in the world at fighting Tilted when it comes to these set lobbies. So they could do it. And you know me, I'm a big Benji and Savage fanboy. I hope they do it. I would love nothing more than to be wrong and someone can replay this video and make fun of me for not predicting them. I'm just too scared with how many moving variables there are around them and how many teams around them that I just don't think I can put them in my top 8. But again, I would love to be proven wrong. Please, Benji and Savage, prove me wrong. Alright guys, that does it for another video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please chuck a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.